Hello Journey friends, and welcome back to this week's Along the Journey. You know, I am very fond of letting everyone know that our Along the Journey viewers and our Journey Discipleship members are smarter than the average bear. They're actually very observant, eagle eyes. Over the last couple weeks, several of you have sent me comments or asked me specifically about my vehicle being the backdrop for this year's devotionals. Yeah, you might have caught me. You know, last year was our green year, and it was all about being on the go. We visited some 30 local landmarks and places to sort of theme in what we were going and where we were going in Journey. So this year's the blue year. And what better backdrop for our weekly themes than Big Blue here. Big Blue is a 1997 Chevrolet Tahoe. I actually picked her up in November of 1996 from Bluegrass Chevrolet in Lexington, Kentucky with 17 miles on her. Now over the past 25 years, she's developed some character. Maybe like us all over 25 years. We've got on the outside just some wheel coverings that have gone missing somewhere along the way. We've got the back window sills that you've got to bail water when it starts to rain now, but I tried to fix that about 5 years ago. We've got the back bumper that the result of a 2001 pole that might have stepped out behind me at a Henderson, Kentucky gas station. It just wasn't there, and then it was. And then of course inside there's a lot of character. The gas gauge still does not work. That's been about 12 years. The tripometer helps me there. The air and the cooling, that blows something. I'm not sure it's ever cool or hot air. But all of these things develop quite a character to Big Blue. But the most important thing is that she is almost at 300,000 miles. 293,800 and change right here as you see it, for 25 years without any significant engine or motor failure, any significant repairs. She just keeps chugging along. Really, really important for a vehicle, especially a trusted chariot like Big Blue. I tell that story a lot. I love Big Blue. She's been good to me. And others will listen and they'll say, hey, you sound like you should be a Chevrolet commercial, or a spokesperson, or maybe an ambassador for Chevrolet. You've experienced this story. It's a good story. It's good news. It's something that you would want others maybe to consider when they find their own vehicle. And you think, yeah, you're right. That sort of describes an ambassador. Someone amongst others that haven't shared the same experience that I have, and for whom I want to share a good news story. That's an ambassador. This week, in the final section of Glory, Grace, and Truth, which is section 1, we're going to be in unit 6, we're going to be looking at a different type of ambassador with the same sort of traits and description, but something much more eternally significant than a 1997 Chevy Tahoe. Ambassadors for Christ. That's right, Blue Year, section 1, unit 6, embracing the truth and living as ambassadors for that truth. You know, last week we talked about how critical it was to know absolute truth, and this week we want to know how critical it is now to share that absolute truth with others. And so 3 key emphasis this week for your time in Journey. The first of these is around the Great Commission. When we look at Matthew 28 and the verses really 16 through 20, we see Jesus say, go make disciples, teaching all that I have instructed you, the good news, the gospel. And the question this week as we look at that passage is really if Jesus is standing right in front of us. Now he's telling us this through his word, but we want to imagine for a moment that he is in the flesh right in front of us, and he implores us, go, teach, make disciples. Is our response differently than it is now that we see it through his word? What is our reaction with Jesus sitting and personally telling each one of us that is our calling, to be an ambassador for him? So spend time in the truth, the Great Commission. Number 2, as you look at the summary section, sometimes our groups, we call this the meat of the week, where we have some reading here that summarizes the whole point of the week. There's some really impactful thoughts around counterfeit glory, the so what of our life pursuits. So we spend a lot of our time in this world just enjoying the world, not God's creation, but enjoying all the pleasures of the world, counterfeit pleasures and glories. We spend a lot of time in trying to impress the world. And yet, how much time do we spend trying to impact the world? And that's what an ambassador does. It goes out into a place and represents a person or a kingdom in this case, and tries to bring about a change or a transformation or be impactful on behalf of who and what they are representing. And so, impacting the world through counterfeit glory. One of the great examples, and I'll relate it to Big Blue, is, imagine I was an ambassador for Chevrolet. And my big pitch was that, hey, you should get one too, because after 25 years, the glove box still works. That glove compartment works like it did the day one. If you're keeping your map in there, anybody does that, you can still get to it. It's just as easy today as you did. You'd say, so what? Oh my goodness. How insignificant is that? But no, I've got something much better to tell you about the mileage in the motor and the engine and the reliability, right? Same thing with our faith. So often we sort of just skirt around the gospel and rather we share these sort of insignificant aspects of it. Yes, we go to church. We love church. We're called to come together in corporate worship. But that's not the bulk. That's not the main thing. That's majoring in the minors. Major in the major is to say we're a believer because Christ came, He lived, He died for us, and He gave us, and He arose, most importantly, in order that He might take on the sins from our fall and our human nature, and we now can be reconciled back to the Father. That's the main point. That's majoring in the major. So spend some time there. And then lastly, on equipping, the question is really this: how do you define the gospel? What do you use for your elevator speech as far as saying what is the gospel? What's the gospel truth? If we're ambassadors, that's really the primary mission statement of what we're intended to share. So this week, I do pray that it's a very blessed week along your journey, and I'll just leave you with the words from, I believe it's Luke 10, verses 1 and 2, where Jesus is sending out the 72, and He sends them out 2 by 2, and He says to them, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers, the ambassadors, are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out ambassadors, laborers, into the harvest field. May this be a blessed week along your journey, and may we all be ambassadors for Christ. Blessings, friends.